So I think we want to try and stick to being on time as much as possible. Looks like we have a great group, about 18 participants today. So thank you all for coming in from this beautiful weather and for joining us. We have an exciting webinar today about customer excellence. And I know our community does a lot of that already, but tips are always wonderful because it's so important. I'm Jillian Harrington, the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism's board president this year and the owner of Clearview Cottage Resort. Before I introduce the guest speaker and presenter for customers who needs them, Sharon Worsley, we have a few housekeeping items. This webinar, just so everyone knows, is being recorded, and we will send a link of the recording out to you after the session. If you are not comfortable being recorded, you can mute your mic and hide your video. And we have a few virtual meeting tips. So questions or comments can be submitted in the chat. Please mute your mic if you are not speaking. We recommend you're on speaker view so you can see the person talking, and you can set that up in the right-hand corner of your screen. Everyone but the speaker will be muted. Enter any technical difficulties or questions in the chat function so that you can find that at the bottom of your screen. And to open the chat, click the icon at the bottom of the screen, and then one of our wonderful chamber staffs, Cassie, will respond and help you through that. So first, we'd like to do a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism is located on the Treaty 20 Michi-Sagig territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Sagig and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Aldersville, Scugog Island, Rama, Osolo, and Georgina Island First Nations. The Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism respectfully acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come, and we thank them for that. This professional development session is proudly sponsored by Lynn Woodcraft, sales representative of Royal LePage Frank Real Estate. So thank you, Lynn. It is because of you we're able to do these. I would now like to introduce our guest speaker, Sharon Worsley. Before joining the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, Sharon Worsley worked for many years in the hospitality and tourism industry, where she learned the importance of providing customer service excellence to stand out from her competition. While working at an independent 4-star hotel in downtown Toronto, competing with all the big brand names, it was through providing customer excellence that this hotel was a strong competitor within the city, despite not having the benefit of a large marketing budget like her competitors. While at the hotel, Sharon also ran her own business development consultancy firm. She noticed that many organizations were leaking opportunities that they often didn't realize. As a result, she created the R7 system, which helps an organization increase business, often for little or no cost. Sharon assists business owners to wake up to their current reality, shake up their mindset, and show up in more significant way within their business. Please, without further ado, welcome Sharon Worsley.
Thank you very much. Just change my screen here. Great, you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Fantastic, great. Well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I have named this Customers Who Needs Them. It's really a rhetorical question. I think we can all agree. No matter what business you're in, you need customers. Now, some of you may call them clients or patients, but for this particular session, we're going to just refer as customers, and you can apply it in whatever way works best for you. What I would advise you to do is, if you have a piece of paper and pen nearby, make sure you have it handy, because hopefully, no pressure on me, hopefully I'm going to be able to give you a few nuggets to be able to take away in your business that you might be able to utilize right away or as early as tomorrow. As it was mentioned in the introduction, many of the things that I teach regarding the system that I had developed prior to coming to the OCC will cost little to nothing to implement. Far too many businesses are moving forward in their business where they're spending a lot of money maybe on Facebook ads or going to lots of networking events but not following up with potential leads. So a lot of times they're what I call leaking opportunities that are often right there in front of them. I'm also going to share some stories of things that I've witnessed either with my own consulting clients, coaching clients, or just in general. I kind of am known as a people watcher. I watch what happens in an organization or with people, and I find that you can tell an awful lot about a person or a business by what they do, but also by what they don't do. So again, I may give you examples of, say, for instance, a chiropractor, and you're a financial advisor or you run a restaurant and you think, well, Sharon, what's this got to do with my business? How does it relate? What a lot of business owners miss out on is that they really don't get that they can actually learn sometimes much more from other industries than worrying about what their competition in their own industry is doing. So that's my aim for today, that you're going to maybe have some new insights on your business and see things that you can make some tweaks or changes, or either do something new or stop doing something. I'm going to be going through each of the different areas of the system. And then if you have any questions at the end, happy to answer any of them for you. So again, as it mentioned, customers who needs them, we all do. I want to actually start here with a picture of a subway in Toronto. I don't know how many of you have been into Toronto or have been on the subway, but I want to start with this particular story just to set up a framework for moving forward with this presentation. So this is a picture of the Toronto TTC, a subway car. It's actually one of the older cars where they would have separate carriages, whereas now, especially on the main line 1, it's just one complete train. You can walk from one end to the other without opening any doors. But the story that I'm going to relate to you is important because of it being, it had occurred in a carriage where you would have to move to another carriage to leave that one. So one day, it was a Saturday morning, I was heading off from my home and I was going up to a university course that I was taking on a Saturday, and it was about 7:30 in the morning, and had worked all week and was really tired that morning. So I got on the subway and sat down, and there were people around me, no one in front of me, but people sort of up and down the carriage. And so I closed my eyes and was just trying to keep it together before I got to the station that I had to change over at Yonge and Bloor to go north. And I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I smelled this really terrible smell. It was so bad I was starting to get dizzy. So I opened my eyes, and right across from me was an elderly man, very disheveled, looked like he was probably homeless. And in one hand he had a rag, and the other hand he had a turpentine. Now the rag had been doused in the turpentine and he was sniffing it. So you can appreciate, if you've ever smelt turpentine, not on purpose, of course, but maybe you were doing some painting or you've just smelt it in passing with other people that were painting. It has a really heavy smell. And if you get too close to it or sniff it like this man does, you can kind of lose your senses a little bit. You get very dizzy and disoriented, which is probably what he was unfortunately trying to do. And as I noticed this and I was feeling sick to the stomach, I looked around me at the carriage and I noticed other people as well were sitting there with their hands over their face, or they had their jacket over their nose, and they were all feeling the same discomfort I was. So at the very next station, I got up and left that particular car and then I was going to walk to the next car. And then there was, and I don't know what the term of the guy is, but the guy that helps the driver, he's the one that opens and shuts the doors. So he was actually near that car. And so I told him what was happening in the car I had just left. And he said, don't worry. He said, I will call ahead. And in the next few stations, we'll have some police officers come and remove this man. So I said, thank you very much. He waited until I got into the next carriage. And then I sat down near the door and I tried to, breathe in some proper air. the interesting thing, the reason why I bring this story up is I looked through the window of the door, and noticed that all the people that had been sitting near me at the time, feeling the same effects I was by this terrible smell of the turpentine, they were all there. They were all there with their hands over their faces again, their jackets over their nose, and none of them had got up at the station I had, yet they were all uncomfortable. And so I kind of use this story to ask business owners to really examine where in their business are they doing something that they could make a change? Where in their business is there something that they should stop doing? Where in their business are they maybe tolerating something that's not working for them, but for whatever reason they've decided, oh, well, that's the way it is in my industry, or we've always done it this way, Sharon, so we're going to keep doing it even though it's not working, or, oh, I hadn't really noticed. Now, I wonder if I were to ask each of you that are on this webinar right now, if you were sitting there with me on that Saturday morning at 7:30, and you had been there and smelt that turpentine, would you have joined me in getting off the carriage and moving somewhere else? Or would you have stayed and put up with that smell and that discomfort? Now, some of you might be going, oh, duh, Sharon, of course I'd get up. Well, here's the thing, we're never going to know because that has already happened. But I would ask you to consider during this call while we're talking, or afterwards, to start re-examining your business model. What's working, what's not, where can you make some slight shifts, where maybe do you need to make some big shifts so that you're not putting up with things that are no longer serving you. So I want to go through what we're going to be covering today. So my intention here is we're going to be covering, unfortunately, because of the time allowed, very quickly, the areas of the R7 system, but I'm going to hopefully give you enough in each section to give you some food for thought of how you might be able to use that in your own business. So we're going to be talking about reinvention. So you might have guessed by now, R7, there's probably 7 words that start with R, and you'd be right. The first part we're going to talk about is reinvention, then re-engage. And by re-engage, I mean re-engage your past customers. Then we're going to look at how to retain the ones that you've got, because that's not always easy. And unfortunately, something that we sometimes as business owners can take for granted. We're going to talk about referring and reward systems. So how to get your customers to refer new business to you and how you're going to reward them for doing so. Then we're going to talk about replenish. So replenish as in get new customers. Then we'll talk about the relationships that you have with your customers, with other business owners, with networking contacts, that type of thing. And finally, it's all about rinse and repeat. So once you've got all of those items above taken care of, then you just continue to rinse and repeat, but keep a watch out to see what's working for you. So let's talk about reinvention first. And so why is reinvention important, you might be wondering? Well, if you're not receiving the results that you really want, or maybe especially during COVID that you need, then it could be that you're using maybe an outdated model. You might be doing things that worked for a while, but then they didn't work after a while. And maybe you just didn't notice it, or you didn't keep any sort of records of what was working. Or maybe you're using things that are done in your industry and they're just not working for you. So I'm going to give you a great example of this. It's what I call the story of the whiteboard. So at one time I was consulting with a chiropractor, and he definitely some room there. And this particular chiropractor was working in a clinic that was at the bottom stairs of a gym upstairs. So he had, and the other practitioners had people that were potential patients in their case, walking by them as people went up and down to the gym on the next floor. So it was in about September that particular year that I was consulting with him. I asked him, what are you doing about re-engaging, going back to the patients that came to you in the first quarter, and just checking in with them if you haven't seen them since then, and also reminding them that their medical benefits will be running out at December 31st, like many benefits that some of us may have. By December 31st, you often have to use up all of your benefits before it starts anew, start January 1st. And he looked at me and it was like, as if I was crazy. And he said, well, we're not calling. And I said, well, listen, what if I wrote a script for you where your receptionist could call your past patients just to check in with them and then see if they wanted to book an appointment, because we're now in mid-September and they only have a few months left. And he said, no, no, Sharon, you don't get it. He said, we don't do that in our industry, in my profession. And I don't want to come across as too salesy. So I asked him, well, why did you get into chiropractic? And he said, well, because I want to help people. And I went, exactly. I said, it doesn't have to come across as salesy. You're checking in with patients that trusted you enough to come to you in the first quarter. And so all you need to be doing now is checking in on them, but reminding them, because you're doing them the favor, they may not have remembered that their benefits are going to run out. And some benefit programs or packages will only allow you to spend a certain amount per different type of professional, whereas some other plans, it'll be, cumulative, so you can spend it however you want. So he didn't want to do that. I'm sitting in his office trying to come up with an idea that could help him. And I looked across and I saw a whiteboard, and I asked him, do you own that whiteboard? Yes, he did. And you're already paying your staff, correct? Yes, he was. So I said, this is my suggestion to you. From tomorrow on, take this whiteboard and put it at the base of the stairs so that every time somebody's going up to the gym or leaving, they're going to see this sign. And on this sign is going to be a countdown timer that's going to remind people how many days left they have before their benefits run out. And then you're going to have 2 calls to action. The first one is going to be book your appointment now. That's all. It's very simple. And then the second call to action is an arrow that points to the receptionist desk. So guess what happened? He saw an increase not only in his past patients, but people that were coming in and out of the gym thinking, hey, I've got chiropractic. I've never used it. I should go and make an appointment. Plus, at the time, he had 2 massage therapists and a physiotherapist as well. So there were 4 practitioners there. They all saw an increase in their business just by using that one little trick. So sometimes it can be something like that. Then that's why I say you don't always have to spend a lot of money or any money at all to be able to come up with ideas, to be able to reinvent your business, or to, in this case, find another way to, have people engage with you. So I want to share a principle with you. And if you write nothing else down, if you decide, Sharon, I'm not writing anything down, totally up to you. But if you are going to write anything down, this is the one thing I would like you to write down. It's called WIFM principle. Now, I wish that I had come up with this. I didn't, but I use it all the time, whether I'm talking to different chambers, trying to help them help their membership, or I'm talking to business owners that are calling the Ontario Chamber of Commerce line because they're worried about their business and they are looking for different strategies and so on. I talk about WIFM. And if you've never heard of WIFM before, WIIFM, it stands for What's in It for Me. Now, when I say WIFM, what's in it for me, I'm actually not talking about you. I'm talking about your current customers, your past customers, and your potential customers. They are going to be looking at your website, your brochure, when you greet them at a networking event, if they come into your, if you've got a brick and mortar store, they're coming in, if you have some sort of medical practice, whatever your business is, they are consciously and subconsciously looking for what's in it for them. So everything you do should come that way. I go to a lot of websites where I see a lot of written up about that person and who's the business owner. And it might even be, I have 2 dogs and I love to travel, and on and on and on. And, that's okay to have as a discussion with someone, maybe at some point. But if somebody's landing on your website, and here's the thing too, you don't know what page they're going to come onto your website, depending on what they've clicked. They may not come to your homepage. They want to quickly see what's in it for them to keep scrolling down your page or going to another part of your website. If you're cold calling them, they want to know within seconds what's in it for them to be giving up time to talk to you on the phone. If you're sending them an email, they want to know what's in it for them. So I really do hope that if you take nothing away from that, that you will always remember the WIFM principle and look at your business right now and how you can make a bit of a change to be able to encompass this principle. The next thing is your why. What is your why? If people don't understand why you do this, why you're passionate about what you do, then they can look at somebody else that's in the same profession as you, or maybe another restaurant or another supermarket or whatever business you're in. And the more you communicate what your why is, then the more they may align themselves and see themselves as your ideal customer. For me, as it was given in the my introduction, I help business owners to wake up, shake up, and show up. I'm very passionate about that, helping them to wake up to what's currently going on in their business, how to shake up their mindset, how to think differently than they have been before, and then how to show up more fully to their customers and even their employees as well, which actually are your customers. They're kind of your first customers. They're the ones that are representing you. So you should be treating them as well as, if not better than, your customers that you're trying to get in your door, whether that be a digital door or an actual brick and mortar door. The other thing too is you've got to be able to show why you are relevant. What is it when you are thinking of relevancy? What makes you relevant to your customer base? Especially now with COVID, so many businesses have had to make changes in the way that they do business or their services or what they're offering. I'll give you one example, Louis Vuitton bags. Now, if there's men that are listening and you may not have ever heard of them, even some of the women may never have heard of Louis Vuitton bags. So I will tell you that they are one of the most expensive bags in the world. They're renowned for very expensive, like thousands and thousands of dollars for a handbag. And no, I don't own one. But I did know that when COVID hit, they realized very quickly that they needed to change their business model, because they had factories that had been building all these bags, that had been, manufacturing them, and realized, who's going to be buying very expensive bags, and how are they going to get them? Yes, we can have it online, which they will do, but also they were having their merchandise in very exclusive high-end stores. But in many parts of the world, and certainly in Ontario, we have shut down for periods of time where, unless it was an essential service, you couldn't go in. So Louis Vuitton, the company, realized that they had to make a change. So they recognized that one of the things that people would be wanting more of at that point would be hand sanitizers. So they actually changed their business model for their assembly line and started manufacturing hand sanitizers. So again, maybe something that you're not going to be doing in your business, but you can look at what you might be able to do a little bit different, that you can be reinventing yourself. The next section I want to talk about is re-engage. And why is it important to re-engage your past customers? Well, simply because your most important expense, besides, if you have brick and mortar, or you've got software or anything like that in staff, your most expensive thing is to acquire a new customer. So if you can re-engage past customers, then you definitely are much better off, because they're kind of a warm lead. Now, here's the problem that I see with a lot of businesses. They have customers that no longer work with them anymore. And in many cases, they don't know why. They don't follow up, they don't ask. Kind of like the chiropractor I suggested at the top of the conversation, he didn't want to find out, because he thought it'd be too salesy. But those people may have gone off to another chiropractor. In fact, because this chiropractor did not, during the shutdown, did not communicate with his patients, many of them, because at one point they could do it for a chiropractor anyway, they were able to do like teledoc. They could do consultations over Zoom or over GoToWebinar or a phone call or so on, and they'd still be paid by the insurance companies in most cases. But he didn't even communicate that with anyone. So in this case, where this chiropractor was situated within a 3 to 4 block radius, there, including himself, or at that time were 23 chiropractors. So just imagine one of his patients is trying to get a hold of him. He decided that he wasn't going to have teledoc because he didn't want to waste people's money, he felt. And he decided to take his family up to a cottage, and he was rebuilding a cottage, but he didn't communicate with his past patients. And so just imagine then when people were injured or that things were opening up again, they had already established new relationships, shall we say, with a new chiropractor in the area. So this chiropractor missed a great opportunity to at least even just stay in touch. Even if he had said, I don't want to waste your money. Hopefully this lockdown won't be on for very long. Little did we know it would be this long, but at least he kept in touch with his patients. Then there would be that communication going. So this is something where you really want to think about this very importantly. You also want to know what the acquisition cost is for a new customer. Now, sometimes that's not just, you go and run Facebook ads or Google ads. It could very well be something like your time going to a networking event or to follow up with someone, or if you have a lot of staff, how much staff are involved in getting, customers. Then you have to put a dollar figure on that. Like, what's your hourly rate as an example? And if you're spending time going to a networking event and you're not following up on possible leads, then that's wasted money and wasted time. So it's really important to know what your acquisition cost is for a new customer so that you can then make decisions in your business on where do you spend your time and where do you spend your money. I know as an example of a business coach who went to a digital marketing company and they were charging him $3,000 to get Facebook ads done. 2,000 of those dollars were just for the digital agency's operation. 1,000 of the dollars was to actually put towards Facebook ads. He had spent $12,000 over 4 months and had not got any new customers, and in his case, new coaching clients. I asked him what type of person is it's something called an ad set. If you're not familiar with Facebook ads, it's where you define the type of customer you want your ads to show up for. So it could be a certain area of the country or your town or city. It could be men between the ages of 40 and 60. It could be professionals, whatever it is. So he didn't even know that. So he was spending all this money, but he didn't know what it was costing him. Even if he'd gotten one customer or one coaching client, the cost of acquisition just for that one person, where if he was lucky, he was maybe charging $500 a month, it was costing him $11,500 to acquire that one $500 customer. So it's very important to look at what it's costing you to acquire a new customer, and then also to know the lifetime value of your customer. So again, a lot of businesses don't know the lifetime value of their customer, so they don't know how much they can spend to get a new one. They don't know maybe what other services or products that they could be spending their time on developing or introducing to increase the lifetime value of their customer. What you always want to be looking for is an opportunity to have that person keep coming back to you. Earlier, I mentioned about finding out about re-engaging your past customers, and for that, a lot of times businesses are too afraid to find out. In conversations I have, people are really concerned about finding out why someone is no longer coming back to them. It could be that the person was kind of ticked off at the service they got. Maybe they didn't like the product. Maybe they found it cheaper somewhere else. Maybe they didn't like the receptionist. In fact, one healthcare professional that I was consulting to, his receptionist was very gruff on the phone and when you went in. And I heard, while I was standing there to speak with him, I heard two people that were sitting down that had just checked in, how much they didn't like to have to deal with that receptionist, because she was kind of cranky and they weren't enjoying the experience of going to that practitioner. So it's also important to find out why they're not coming to you. Now, important to note, they may not come back to you if you find out, but you've got an opportunity to turn that around. And if nothing else, if you find out that there's a series of things that you could be doing differently, you may never re-engage that past customer, but you could possibly work on the things that were causing an issue where you were bleeding out customers, put a stop to it so that you're not going to be losing customers for the same reason again. So that's where I talk about, keeping metrics on your customers, knowing, why they're coming to you, why they're no longer coming to you, why they chose you, how you might be able to introduce new services and products. What are the steps you take to find out why the customer has left, as I just mentioned? So the next part is to retain. And that, why is retaining your customers important? Well, I think we already know that because of the cost to acquire a new one. So think of all the work that goes into it. I know for myself, I used to go to a lot of networking events before I came to the OCC and I was running my business full time. Sometimes I go to 5 to 7 different events a week, networking events. But here's the thing that I find at a lot of networking events, people will take your card and then they don't follow up with you. For me, I would always follow up. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the replenish section, but I just want you to be thinking about that. So think about what it is that you're doing to retain the customers that you've got. When was the last time you looked at what it is that you're actually offering your customers? That's why when you know the lifetime value and you know what they're purchasing and you're keeping some sort of metrics, and no, I'm not expecting you to go all geeky and set up, tons of different type of Excel spreadsheets, but you could be taking note. You could be having conversations. Ask your staff, what are they hearing if you have staff? Or ask your customer, what is it that why did they choose you? What are they looking for? What are some services or products that they wish you did offer, and see what you can do. The next part we're going to talk about is refer and reward. I find that this is a passion project of mine. Why is it important? Because you want to create raving fans. This is so vital to your business. It's very easy. I talk to so many businesses and I'll say to them, do you have a referral program? And they'll say, well, yeah, if somebody refers me, I give them this discount, or I do this or whatever. But sometimes they don't have anything formal so that their customers know that you as a business owner would love to get some referrals from them. And then the additional part is that they don't feel rewarded. Now, I'm not saying that a customer will only refer people to you if you give them something in return. However, there is something called the law of reciprocity. And sometimes it's even subconscious, where, as an example, if someone gave you a new customer, what is it that you're doing to show your appreciation for what they did? Now, when I was in the hotel industry, I'll give you an example. In one sector alone, when I started in the mining industry, we had 8 clients. By the time I left, I had over 120 clients. Much of that had to do with the customer excellence that I and my fellow staff members were exhibiting, but also I would always show my appreciation for anyone that referred me new business. Sometimes, as an example, I would have the CEO of a mining company come to our office and say, Sharon, I'm on the board of this other mining company and they're interested in finding out more about your hotel. So I'd get the card from him or her and then thank them very much. And if they were leaving the hotel, they were checking out, then I couldn't do anything. But if they were staying there a couple of days, I would send up a cheese plate or a fruit platter as a thank you. Or I'd make a note that the next time they came in, I would leave a note so that the front desk staff would let me know, Mr. or Miss So-and-so were coming in, and then I would order something up to their room. If it was an executive assistant from a company that was referring me to someone else within their organization or elsewhere, I might send them a little something, or I might have them come in and join me for lunch and have lunch on our hotel. So sometimes it doesn't even have to cost a lot. Sometimes it could just be a handwritten card. And I say handwritten because if you type things up or send an email, it's not as personal. And I know many people are, they don't want to do the handwritten stuff. They don't want to send the card out. Well, think of it this way, and more so now with COVID, how can you stand apart from your competition? How can you be different? Think about the last time you actually got something in the mail that wasn't a bill, or it wasn't a promo to, go to a fast food restaurant and get a discount. Imagine a handwritten card that you actually thanked someone, or you sent maybe a $25 Tim Hortons card or Starbucks card in there. Now, some people will say to me, oh, Sharon, you don't understand. I don't make enough money to be able to do this. It's too expensive for me to send them a thank you card with a gift card in it. Well, I'm going to give you an example of a conversation I had with a chamber, definitely not the chamber you belong to, but it was a chamber a couple of years ago when I first started at the OCC. And I was explaining, they were trying to grow their membership. And I was explaining to them, what if you had a referral program? And their thought was, no, no, it's too expensive. But what actually happened, they realized that if they did do something for their member, they could, just show the appreciation, because the new member that joined, and this applies to all businesses. It's not, I'm not sort of saying chambers, the chamber network. I'm talking about anything, even my chiropractor. If they gave that person something as a thank you, whether it be a handwritten note or a Starbucks card or whatever, it's just showing appreciation. And that person subconsciously and consciously is like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad I was able to connect the two people up. So again, it's not a mandatory thing, but if somebody does refer you some new business, find a way that you can say thank you to them so that they feel appreciated and they feel heard. But also think of how you could set up a referral program so that people are going to know what it is that you offer and how you're going to look after their referrals. So you want to create those raving fans so that you're going to have ongoing success. Here primarily you want for customers to look for ways to refer new business to you. You want those raving fans that will go above and beyond. Not everyone's going to be like that, because heck, we've all got businesses to run, families. We're dealing, certainly during the pandemic, with a lot of other things. So, it really just depends on whether you think it might be something that's going to work for you. But I'd like you to kind of consider where you might be able to do something that you're not currently, and then reward them for their efforts. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of a referral and reward system that I set up for two people whose companies told them that they could not give anything payment wise. The first one you see here, a very nice car. I was dealing with a mortgage broker, and he had come to my program, and we were talking about referral and reward systems. And I asked him, if he had anything, and he said, no, I'm not allowed to. My company doesn't allow me to spend any money. So I said, okay, give me an idea of your typical referrer, what sort of age group, male, female, what? And he said, well, typically they're like 40 to 55 high net worth men. So I asked him, near your office, do you have a car dealership for a high-end car company? And he said, yes, absolutely, I do. And I said, this is my suggestion then. Go to the dealer, don't go to the staff, but actually speak to the dealer and explain that you would like to arrange, if this person is amenable to it, a evening where you can invite your referral partners to come in and test drive one of their cars and have an opportunity to meet other people as well. So it's a win-win, because first of all, the mortgage broker gets to thank his referring partners. The car company, the dealership, gets what I'd say bum in seats to be able to test drive a new car and potentially maybe sell a new car to someone at some point, whether then or later on, or maybe get a referral. And it's a win for these referring people to come in and meet other people that they might be able to do business with, or meet a new friend, or just have a great evening out. And I even said to him, you could even go above this and think of a restaurant that's nearby that would love to have eyeballs on what they offer. And maybe they can arrange to have, some small platters of food, obviously no alcohol, but you could have some soft drinks or, some sort of juices or whatever, because you don't want people that are, driving cars to be drinking alcohol, of course. But it also gives that particular restaurant an opportunity to have more people aware of them. So he did do this, and it was very successful. I then had a woman who was in her late 20s, and her typical client, she was a financial advisor. Her typical client was young women just out of college and university, and for them, referring other women that they knew from school. So again, her company would not let her spend any money on a referral system. Instead, I suggested that she go to a company called Sephora. Again, I don't know if you all are aware of Sephora or not. Maybe some of the men are not, maybe some of the women are not. You may not have one near you, but basically you can see from the picture here, it is a store which caters to both men and women with makeup and personal care products. You can see with the chairs there, the store loves to be able to get people in to do makeovers on, because chances are if a person has a makeover or they try on a bit of product, they may buy that and more. So I suggested that she go to her local Sephora, because she was in Toronto, and set something up with that local store to have a couple of these chairs set aside so that she could bring her clients that were referring to her, new clients, and have a bit of an evening. So that's something you can think about. Again, doesn't even have to cost you any money. I've given you 2 examples right here that cost nothing for you to implement. The next part I want to talk about is replenish. So with replenish, I'm talking about, again, as I said at the top of the call, getting new customers. One of the really important things that many businesses don't think about is how to onboard new customers. That can even apply if you're a restaurant. So as an example, I don't know if you're familiar with a restaurant called Denny's, but Denny's is down near where our office is, down near University and Dundas in downtown Toronto. And it's a restaurant that they have these little cards that every time you go and eat, every 5 meals, you get the 6th one free. Now it's on a certain menu, so you just can't have anything, but they do give you these cards, and it's a way to onboard you to get you to keep coming back. Now, when I say onboarding, I'm going to give you some ideas here. So one could be a welcome package. Depending again on what type of industry you're in or profession, you might come up with some sort of welcome package that you give them. And it could be something as easy as, a t-shirt, or if you're a dentist, are you giving them, packages with a toothbrush and toothpaste? Every time I go to my dentist, I've been going there a long time, and they're nowhere even near me anymore, but I get great service from them. They always give me a little package that has a new toothbrush and toothpaste. It's like, great, I've got that. So it could be anything that would work for you. It could be a welcome phone call or an email. One thing that I think is really interesting thing to do is to do a video. Everyone has a phone these days, and they can do a quick video. It does not have to be professional. And you just do a little video with the person's name, thanking them for, coming into your restaurant. If you are able to get their emails, you can do that. Or, if you're a profession that you've got their contact details, you can send them a welcome email or a phone call. And in the email, you could do a little video like, hey, Brian, thank you so much for coming into our dental practice this week. We look forward to being of service to you in the future. If you do anything like this, it's really, in my take, important to personalize it. Just like I had mentioned in the past about sending out cards, make sure you use their name. And then you don't have to do a video, over and over and over again after, depending on how many customers you have, of course. But you may have another Brian that comes along, but you save the file as a Brian, so you can use that one, or it's a Sue or an Ann or a John, so you don't have to redo it. But even if you did, wouldn't it be worth it? Imagine if you went to a new business, and somebody sent you a video to say thank you, and they used your first name. What would you be thinking? Probably, wow, they took the time to do this. It's pretty impressive. Then there's things like periodic check-ins. Again, you don't want to be salesy, so you just want to maybe check in on how they're doing. Is there anything that you could be doing for them? Hoping they're okay, especially during COVID. I think of all the places that I've gone to, that I've been a regular at, and how few have reached out to me. Now, obviously, some don't have my contact details, so you have to take that out of the equation. But there are other places that will, like my former chiropractor, didn't hear anything at all, have not heard anything in over a year from this practice, year and a half actually, have heard nothing from. Now, I haven't needed a chiropractor, but if I do need one, will I go back to him or not? Because there's 22 other chiropractors in the area that may appreciate my business more. Who knows? But there's always that opportunity. Next, I want to talk about relationships. So we're getting through the system here. And why is it important? Well, to have powerful relationships is what helps you to have a highly successful business. And when I talk about relationships, I'm talking about everyone here. I'm talking about the relationship that you have if you have staff. Do they truly know how important they are? What kind of company culture have you led? Have you created? If it's a referral partner, are you checking in with them right now? How's their business going? Is there anything that you can do to help? Again, doesn't have to be salesy. Just think how many of us are working from home right now, or may only go to the office every so often, or have a business that's brick and mortar, and so they're there all the time. But there are others that aren't. So how many people are you reaching out to? Even if you set yourself a goal of, 5 people this week I'm going to check in with just to see how their business is going, how they're doing. That goes a long way in building long-term relationships. So you want to look at that. And then also, your past customers, as I talked about before, the ones you've got and any ones that have ever reached out to you to find out about your business. Now it may be the time for you to reach out to them and just say, look, I'm not calling to make a sale here. We had spoken once before, realize we're all dealing with this thing called COVID. Just wanted to reach out and see how you're doing. It'd be amazing to see how many people you can reach out to and not intentionally try and re-engage them to be your customer, but you never know what might be possible. They may not need your service anymore, but after they get off the phone with you, they might think, wow, that person took time out of their day to call me. I might not need their service anymore, but hey, I know my neighbor was looking for someone in that industry, so I'm going to let them know. So you just really never know what's possible. So how to maintain a great relationship with your customers. So here's just some things for you to think about. Like I just said, keep in touch by various means. Listen to their challenges. And that's not only during COVID, but certainly it's been ramped up while we've been facing all of this together. But even outside of that, what are their challenges? How can you show them you are the answer to their challenge, their problem? When I was consulting companies, I would find out what were their biggest problems. In fact, when I would go to networking events, I would always be the one that would follow up. Not to say other people didn't, but within generally 2 business days, I was calling those people on the phone saying, oh, hi, John, we met at XYZ Networking 2 days ago. I'd just like to set up an appointment with you if you've got your calendar handy for maybe 30 minutes, because I'd like to learn more about your business. So in case I can refer anyone to you, I'll have that information handy. And then I would, at the end of our call, the 30 minutes, I generally take 20 to 25 minutes to find out about them. I had a spreadsheet that I kept all the information on. In the last few minutes, I'd ask them if I could talk about what I did. And of course, they always said yes. So just imagine if I were to ask you, what percentage of people do you think when I called them after I had met them at a networking event and I had their business card in hand, and I was calling them to ask them if they would set up an appointment with me so I could learn more about them, I wonder what percentage you might offer. Now, if you said 60%, you'd be wrong. If you said 75%, you're closer, but you'd still be wrong. 100% of the people I contacted after a networking event to set up a scheduled appointment made the scheduled appointment with me. So that's another little tidbit. If networking is some part of your business, that's a little strategy that you can take up, and you'd be amazed how many people then want to know about your business and refer you business as a result. So something else you can do is you can introduce customers to each other. So sometimes it's not about necessarily right up front the business that you're going to get from a new potential customer. It could be that you're referring someone to another business, and you refer them several partners, and then when they have an opportunity, they go, oh, I'm going to refer some business over to you. So it's always looking at that type of thing, how you could be introducing people to each other. So not that you're necessarily what we'd call a joint venture partner where you're going to get a commission. It doesn't have to be that way. If you set it up that way, that's fine. But if you're doing it with the intent of wanting to help other businesses succeed, in turn, they'll want to be able to help you succeed as well. And the last part is rinse and repeat. And why is that really important? Well, I have found in all the years, whether it was working at the hotel for all the years that I was there, or working my own business for so many years, or even working here at the OCC, that I know that by having systems in place and processes, it takes stress away. And I know a lot of people can be very averse to having systems and processes. And they're like, Sharon, I'm not geeky. I don't do that. Then don't do it. But before you decide not to do it, folks, think about what it's costing you. I know, as an example, to go from 8 clients in the mining industry to over 120, I had to have certain systems in place, certain templates. So I wasn't typing the same thing over and over again. I could take a template and I could customize it, for example, but I didn't have to reinvent it all the time. And then I had checklists of, okay, I've got to do this, 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 and this if I'm onboarding a new customer to the hotel, or if I'm onboarding a new customer. I'm also a professional speaker. So if I get a speaking gig, I have a checklist of all the things that I have to do with the people that are hiring me, both beforehand, during the presentation, the day, and then afterwards. What is it that they have to get from me, and what do I need from them for this to go seamlessly? So I would definitely encourage you in your business, and you don't have to call it a system, you don't have to call it a process, whatever you want to call it, come up with a really cool name, but have different things in place that, first of all, are taking away some of your stress, but keep you on mark as far as what you can be doing, and what you might not be doing currently, that if you were to make some changes, you're going to see a vast difference in your business. Maybe not initially, but overall. So some things to consider. Do you want to be average, or do you want to be the best at what you do? It really comes down to that. There's a lot of what I call average business owners out there. And I don't mean that in any derogatory sense. I mean it that they're doing it like everyone else. Or do you want to be the best at what you do? And I'm going to give you a final example before we finish up and I take some questions. While I've been living here and working from home for the last year, I one day, very early last year, in early April, I decided that I wanted to support a business that's across the street from me, a restaurant. And so I'd never been there in the whole 6 years or 7 years. I think it was 6 years at the time I'd been living here. I had some favorite restaurants that were within a few blocks of here, but because it was still cold outside, I figured by the time I went and ordered from those businesses, it would be cold. Plus they had changed their menu slightly for takeout. And my favorite meal that I always ordered from this one particular restaurant, they didn't have on the menu. So I went online and I looked for this particular restaurant, and I saw the menu and I thought, yep, I see something I like. So I made a call to the restaurant across the street and I ordered something, and it was the owner, the woman who owned the restaurant. And I said, I've never ordered from you before, but I live across the street and I want to support your restaurant. So she said, well, it's 25% off. And I was like, wow, really? Like 25% off? I said, I didn't see that on your website. Oh yeah, we didn't bother putting it on the website. And I said, oh, okay, fine. And so I ordered it, and they were going to text me when it was ready. And then I went across the street to pick it up. When I went across the street to pick it up, I was talking to the woman about business and how it was going and so on. And I said to her, do you mind if I offer you some feedback, maybe help your business in some way? And I gave her a little bit about my background. And I said, if I were you, 25% off is a pretty decent percentage to be taking off, because if you're using at that point DoorDash or Skip the Dishes or Uber, they're usually charging 25 to 30% at that point to deliver. And the whole point here is, if any of you are ordering this way right now, if you go on to any of those apps, they have a lot of different restaurants. Whereas if this woman were to offer 25% and make it known to as many customers as possible, they would ring the they would ring the restaurant directly, and she'd be able to start forming a relationship with them, not competing with other restaurants on the app. And she would also not be paying a commission to one of these apps. So I suggested to her, I said, look, you've got this huge window in front of you, and nobody's inside right now because we're in lockdown. Nobody can eat inside. If I were you, I'd go and get a can of paint and a paintbrush. And it doesn't have to look professional. Actually, if it doesn't, even better, because people will relate. And I would put up right up on your window, the whole glass there, 25% off. And I said, because right now, nobody knows. And she said, well, I have this little sign here. But there was a little sign in the doorway that I actually hadn't seen. It was not on the sidewalk. So I said to her, look, nobody's going to see this sign unless they're coming to the door after they've already ordered. I said, you've got people walking on both sides of the sidewalk. You've got traffic, cars going back and forth. There are 5 different bus lines that are coming by right now where people are getting off before or after and could stop and come to your restaurant if they saw this huge sign, because they're going to save 25% off. And I said, and I pointed out to my apartment, and I said, look at all these apartments and condos that are facing you. If they're getting 25% off, they might, first of all, come to you, but they might also tell their neighbors. And guess what? She never did it. In fact, I went back a second time, I ordered, and I got my 25% off, but she had never done anything. So I didn't bring it up again because it's her business. I respect that. All I was doing was offering a suggestion. Then the third time I ordered, it was around the time that the patios were going to open here in Toronto. And so at the end of the piece, she told me how much it was. And I went, oh, you're not offering the discount? She said, no, because we're opening up the patio. And so, we don't need to give the discount anymore. And I thought, they haven't even opened the patio yet. So yes, it's totally up to them to give a discount, but what about keeping people coming? Plus, when I went to pick up the package, she said that they weren't going to open right away, that they were going to open in about a week and a half because they had hired a painter to come and paint the whole front of the restaurant. Now, me having worked at a 4-star hotel, I noticed little scratches and marks on things because at a 4-star hotel, we had staff on site that would be constantly fixing all those little things. So I have an eye for this. And I looked at the front and it didn't need any painting, but it was going to take a week and a half. And in the meantime, her regulars, who probably were just tired of staying at home, were probably going to go to other restaurants and then develop relationships with them. So in a week and a half, when she finally opened her patio, she may not have them come back. Plus, she only had 6 tables at her patio, and only 2 of those tables could have 4 people. All the others were 2. So she wasn't offering the continued discount for people that were still ordering in. So I share this with you, not that I'm telling you to discount your service at all or your products, but purely an example of how someone can be very set in their ways and be missing opportunities that are right in front of them. Now, interestingly, she does now offer a 15% discount for ordering in and takeout when they were open, but it's on such a small little sign and you can't really see it unless you go to the door. So she did start to do something, but it's just not enough. So I would say to you, where can you be doing a little bit more even? It's kind of like compound interest. Where can you be doing a little bit more in your business to secure either the customers you currently have, new ones, or re-engage some of your past ones? So I do hope that you got something out of this. I'd like to turn the time over now for any questions that you might have. If there are questions related even to your profession, happy to take them.
Okay, Sharon, we do have a really good question that in the chat here, and this probably applies to quite a lot of the businesses in this area because a lot of businesses in this area are seasonal. Mm-hmm. So Erin from McLean Berry Farm says, do you have any tips for those of us with seasonal/retail businesses that may only see our customers a few times a season, or those who have to rely on seasonal staff to build those relationships with guests, customers? So building culture is great and something that needs to be done, but are there other things we can do during training to help stress the importance of this? Okay. I asked staff to do one exceptional thing for someone at least once, every time they work. Doesn't have to be big or huge, but it is above and beyond that makes a difference to a guest. But I'm always looking for other ideas. So Sharon, comment on the question.
Okay, so that was a big question, which is great, because I was hoping someone would bring something up about what staff can be doing something different. So I'm going to talk about something called customer excellence. I'm sure you've all heard of customer service. That's the kind of, in my mind, that's the basic. And I should tell you, I'm going to age myself here, but I've got about 25 years experience in the hospitality and tourism industry. So not only just working at a hotel, I grew up in Australia. Even though I'm born in Montreal, I have dual citizenship. So if I say things like Australia or today, I sound very Australian, right? But I used to work for Qantas Airways in Australia, and we were very big on customer excellence, not just the basics. And then I've worked in travel companies and all throughout. So a lot of my background has been in how to excel in customer service. So I'm going to give you 3 categories. And this is something you can take back and discuss with your staff as well. So to me, customer service, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I want you all to think of a time that you've gone into, say, a supermarket, a grocery store, and you were looking for a certain product. And you go up to one of the workers and you go, hey, can you tell me where XYZ product is? And they go, oh yeah, it's over in aisle 7. To me, Sharon Worsley, that's customer service. That's the very basic minimum you could be doing. If they, however, said, oh, come with me, and they walk you over to the top of aisle 7 and point and go, oh, it's down at the back over there, that to me is customer care. It's kind of going a little bit further, but not quite there yet. Customer excellence, and I'm sure some of you already know where I'm going with this, is if they said, yes, come with me, and then they walk you to aisle 7, they walk you right down aisle 7, and they place you right in front of the product that you're looking for. To me, that's customer excellence. So with your staff, I would maybe talk about that type of thing. I don't have a trademark on it, so it's okay. But it's something that I live and breathe. I believe in customer excellence, and I call it going the extra mile. That's actually how I got into professional speaking, was being asked to come and talk to companies about customer service. And that's where I came up, talking about customer excellence. And so that's something that you could take back to your staff. I think it's great where you're saying, once a day, can they do something, or, for every person, find something. It doesn't have to be big. It's those little moments, and it doesn't have to be big, but it might be something that the customer wasn't expecting that is actually in the category of customer excellence. Then back to the original part of your question, that you're seasonal and, keeping in touch with people, that can sometimes be a little challenging. I always say I've also got an internet marketing and a copywriting background. And a lot of internet marketers and marketers will tell you the money is in the list. And what we mean by that is the email list. So if you haven't in the past, when you do open up, find some way to get the emails of the people that are using your service, because then you can kind of keep them informed of what's coming up. You can let them know special deals, whatever it is. So that's one way of keeping in touch with them. And then look around the businesses around you. Maybe some of them you could offer some sort of referral program. So again, not knowing, the full capacity of what your product or service is, I would suggest looking for some way that you can offer a referral reward system with other businesses surrounding you, or team up depending on what your business is. Is there a complementary service or product that you could partner with someone and put together, or refer back and forth? So hopefully that's answered your question. Next question.
Don't see any other questions in the chat. There was a comment about the Swiss Bear restaurant gives a butter tart to all first-time customers. So that is an example of a local business that does that.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's a really good one to first-time customers. It's also a thing like if you have staff that hear that it's somebody's birthday or anniversary, and you don't even normally hand out cake as an example, or pie, you could give that to them as a one-off. Or you could promote that, on your birthday, you get X% off. Like I know Denny's has a, breakfast menu that if you come in on your birthday, you get a deal. Starbucks, if you have a Starbucks reward card and you go in on your birthday, some will do it like a week or two on either side, but some are it has to be on that day and people have to prove it's their birthday as an example. But these are all like creative ways that you can look at that you could be standing apart from your competitor, but also creating that great experience for your customer.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask Sharon directly. So we'll just see if anyone has any questions before.
Yes. See if someone can stump me. See if you can get me. Like I can't come up with something. I love a challenge. No? So what I'd like to know then, if we can open it up to participants, what was a takeaway that somebody got out of this that they think that they can maybe use or make some changes in their business? Is anyone willing to share that? No?
I enjoyed your story about the subway and whether or not you would move or not, because you don't know in that situation, would you just deal with what you've got, or would you make a change and move? So I like that one.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I always start off this particular presentation that way, because while it's completely like has nothing to do with customers, it kind of does. It's a life experience, right? It's looking at how you run your business, how you act, you know, what is it that you're going to put up with, what aren't you going to put up with. So I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really liked, Cindy went over here. I really liked the analogy you gave of the, you know, the mortgage brokers and how they
Yes.
would partner with people. You know, they got creative with how to offer rewards or referrals. I thought that was really great.
Yeah, and in this case, in both those cases, it didn't cost them a penny. So they met the needs of their companies. I also gave something similar to a law firm, because under the rules for the Law Society and the bar for Ontario and Canada, or certainly Ontario, a lawyer cannot pay and a paralegal cannot pay a referral fee to even another lawyer outside of the province. They have to be a lawyer or a paralegal in Ontario, or at least it was when I was consulting them. And so they had all these businesses or individuals that were referring them business, but legally, or, you know, as far as the bar was concerned, they couldn't pay them anything. So what they did was, and I got invited because I was referring business too, we talked about how they could do this, and they put on a special event, an evening, where in their large boardroom, a downtown location, they invited these people in, and they had food and they had, you know, some drinks, and they introduced people to other businesses. So again, it didn't cost anything, but it was just great that there was an opportunity to them to be able to show their appreciation to those that had extended goodwill by referring business to them.
Great.
That's fantastic. In the chat, we have someone that posted that they like the WIIFM principle, and says very good to keep in mind when doing emails and social media posts.
Absolutely, most definitely. Whether it be social media posts, whatever it is, in any way, it's really what's in it for me, being the end user. What's in it for them to work with you, to refer you business, to have anything to do with you.
So I think we're probably coming to a close of the
right.
presentation. So if there isn't any more questions or comments, I have a few kind of wrap up things for everyone. So are we good with the questions and comments?
Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
So on behalf of the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and the members and everyone who's attended, we just would like to thank Sharon Worsley for this presentation. And I think everyone got some really nice nuggets of tips and information that we can definitely apply to the different businesses and organizations that we work for.
Fingers crossed, I hope so.
Thank Sharon.
Thank you.
Then also we'd like to thank Lynn Woodcroft for sponsoring this event. She is our professional development sponsor. So thanks again for being an amazing sponsor, Lynn Woodcroft. And speaking of showing our appreciation for customers and clients and people in general, we do have, the Kawartha Chamber does have an upcoming event in April to show our appreciation to our volunteers. This event is called PAWS, spelled P-A-W-S, for appreciation, because we have a theme around it, and we're having a guest speaker from the Peterborough Humane Society, Sharon Worsley, who will be presenting. And also we have the Victim Service Coordinator, Alice Zitstrom from the Peterborough Police, has a special guest, Pixie, the facility dog, will be making an appearance. And we will be talking about the Peterborough Humane Society's new animal care facility that they are going to be opening, and also how pets and animals have helped with wellness and really kind of helped us out during the pandemic. and it'll be a fun event, and animals and pets are allowed to crash Zoom for this event. So that is going to be April 14th. Invites will be coming out for that. So, and also it's on our events page, so kawarthachamber.ca, and the events tab, you'll find it there. And then we'll be having a virtual networking event in May 12th. And this will be interesting because normally in the past we've done hops where we hop around to different businesses. But because it's virtual, we can hop to businesses that don't necessarily have a storefront. So it is not your typical hop. So that is coming up. And as a thank you to Sharon for being a guest speaker this evening, we are making a donation in Sharon's name and to a local charity. So Sharon has picked the Lovesick Lake Native Women's Association as the charity that will donate into her name.
I appreciate that. And actually, can I just say, I noticed that there is one question from Andrew Wolf. He said here, for a newsletter, what would be the optimal frequency to not be a nuisance? What I would say to all of you is, if you're showing value, you're not being a nuisance. So when you're doing something like this, you might want to start it off, maybe once a month or whatever, but always be asking yourself, is what I'm giving them of value? And if it is, I subscribe to some newsletters that I get every single day. So I just wanted to not leave one question unanswered. So thanks for that.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sharon. So we just want to thank everyone for attending this event, and we hope to see you at our future events with the Kawartha Chamber. And if you have any questions for Sharon after this that you thought of afterwards, you can always get in contact with myself. My email is membership@kawarthachamber.ca, or you can call us at the chamber and ask us the question, and we'll get you in contact with Sharon to answer your question for you.
Perfect.
Thank you, Sharon, and everyone for coming. This is Jillian. I'm sorry my video is not working. And thank you to all chamber staff for all their hard work and continued support as we go through this pandemic and have to use virtual events instead of in person. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for that, Jillian. Okay, so looks like this is the end of our event. We hope that everyone has enjoyed it.